Hey everybody, I hope you guys are healthy and safe. So this is the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro. I reviewed this phone about a month ago and I really like it. It is one of the most polished and well-rounded Android or any smartphone out in 2020 so far. But I know some of you guys are unhappy with Xiaomi's pricing because this sells in Europe for 999 euros, which is about 1,100 US dollars. And even in China and Hong Kong, you have to pay 850 bucks around there to get this phone. Some of you guys think this is too expensive for a Xiaomi phone. I don't think that's quite fair because I think you guys are holding Xiaomi's past history against it. The way I see it, if Samsung, Huawei, Apple are all selling their flagship phones at $1,300, why can't Xiaomi sell its flagship at $1,000 if this phone is just as good as those phones in just about every way? But at the same time, I understand your gripe. Some of you guys may be on a budget and you're used to buying Xiaomi phones for $500-600 and now suddenly this phone's $1,000 and you guys are scoffing at it. I understand. But Xiaomi has you covered though, because this is just the Pro model of the Mi 10. There's a standard version of the Mi 10 that gives you almost the exact same experience but for around $300 less. Now I haven't really used the phone yet, but my twin brother Ken has been using the phone, so let him tell you about it. Hey Ken, why don't you come here and tell him about the Mi 10? Hey, what's up guys? I'm Ken, I'm his older brother. So as he already said, this is the standard Xiaomi Mi 10 and it's about $300 less than the Mi 10 Pro and you're getting almost the exact same experience. So a lot of phone brands, when they release two models of the same phone, the Pro model or the superior model usually is much more powerful than the standard model. It might have a higher refresh rate or higher resolution display or maybe like a more powerful processor. That's not the case here. This phone has the exact same display panel as the Mi 10 Pro. It's a 90Hz 1080p panel OLED screen. It's excellent to look at, 500 nits of brightness. Same curvature, same hole punch display. The processor is exactly the same. It's a Snapdragon 865, just like in there. The main camera is even identical. It's a 108 megapixel camera here, just like on the Mi 10 Pro. The only areas in which the Mi 10 differs from the Mi 10 Pro are in the additional cameras. So the Mi 10 Pro has a 20 megapixel wide-angle lens, whereas on the standard Mi 10, it's only a 12 megapixel wide-angle camera. So that means if you're taking wide-angle images and you're trying to zoom in, that phone's going to be able to capture a little bit more detailed, a little bit more sharper image. But really, the wide-angle image here is still pretty good. I'm going to show you some samples later. The other two lenses do fall short a little bit of what the Mi 10 Pro offers. So the Mi 10 Pro offers you two telephoto zoom lenses, one long, one short to cover all the different focal lengths. The standard Mi 10 does not have a telephoto zoom lens at all. So that means any zoom on this phone is done digitally. Instead, the two cameras here are a pair of 2 megapixel sensors. One is a macro lens and the other is a depth sensor. Now the macro lens is pretty useful. I like taking pictures really up close of stuff. But the depth sensor is kind of pointless because we've already seen a bunch of other phones that can capture really good bokeh without a depth sensor. So the depth sensor, you can get rid of that. This is basically a triple camera phone. But other than that, really the only area where you're going to see a performance difference is in the zoom. And even then, if you're zooming just 2x or 3x, it's going to be very close. Only when you're zooming 10x, 15x, are you going to see a much better photo from the Mi 10 Pro. So if you don't care about zoom at all, you get to save $300 and still get a phone that gives you like 90 to 95% of what that phone gives you. And if you're upset with the $1,000 asking price of the Mi 10 Pro, you might want to consider this one because it sells in Europe for around 700, 750. And in China and Hong Kong, you can get it a little cheaper even for around 500, 550 US dollars. So anyway, I'm gonna take this phone out to test some more. Whoa, you just gonna go without saying bye? Alright guys, this is Ken. So this is the Xiaomi Mi 10 standard version. And then here is the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro. Both of these phones look virtually identical from the outside. Both of these are Gorilla Glass 5, although there's a different coating on each of the phone. As you can see on the Pro, it has a matte finish, whereas on the standard, it has a more reflective finish that still does not attract fingerprints that much. Good job, Xiaomi. I don't know why Samsung has not figured this out, but on my Galaxy Fold, is just nasty. Anytime I use the phone, it just looks like this. I don't know how every phone brand has figured out how to make its glass back not attract fingerprints, except Samsung. Now around the front, can you tell the difference between these two screens? You shouldn't be able to. They are the exact same panel. OLED panel, 1080 by 2340, 90 Hz refresh rate, same curvature. And just like on the Mi 10 Pro, the standard Mi 10 also has stereo speaker grills at the bottom and the top of the phone. So that means you're getting the exact same audio output from both sides at the same direction. So this is about as good as stereo speakers can get on the phone. Better than the mono speaker on the Huawei P40 Pro, and better than a phone like a OnePlus 8 Pro where the bottom speaker is larger than the top speaker. That's not the case here. So if you care about audio loudspeakers at all, the Xiaomi Mi 10 series, either the Pro or the standard one here, are the phones to get. As I mentioned already, the main camera is exactly the same too. So really, you're going to get the exact same performance when you're just taking 1x photos. As you can see from some of these side-by-side samples here, they look virtually identical. Now you notice that the Xiaomi Mi 10's camera app is slightly different from the Mi 10 Pro. The Xiaomi Mi 10 only has 3 toggle buttons right here. You tap on this to go wide. You tap on this one to go 2x zoom. And the max zoom only goes up to 10x. Whereas on the Mi 10 Pro, you see there are more dots right here. You tap here to go wide, tap here to go to 2x, and then 5x. 5x here is still lossless on the Pro, and you can go all the way up to 50x. And if you want to take macro images, you also tap on this icon right here on the Pro. That's because the Pro uses one of its telephoto lenses to capture the macro image. Whereas on the standard Mi 10, there's a dedicated macro sensor. So that means you have to toggle the macro lens by tapping on this icon at the top. As you can see, once you toggle it on, you can get really close to an object and not lose details. In terms of macro photography, it's very similar to what the Mi 10 Pro is capable of. Either way, these phones trump the iPhone 11 Pro, which doesn't have a macro lens, so you notice I cannot get close to the flower without losing focus. Now the wide-angle camera on the standard Mi 10 is only a 12 megapixel sensor, whereas on the Mi 10 Pro you have a 20 megapixel. So that means when you take wide-angle images, the Mi 10 Pro is going to capture something a little bit sharper. Truth be told, you're not going to be able to notice it if you have good daylight and you're just viewing the image on your phone screen without zooming in. If I put this out on a computer, or if I even maybe zoom in a little bit here on the phone screen, then I should be able to see that the Pro is slightly sharper and more detailed. Yeah, I can see that right now. You notice the texture of the shirt on the Pro, it's a lot more clear and closer to real life than on the standard Mi 10. The texture on the shirt looks a little bit soft, looks a little bit mushy compared to right here. You can see the wrinkles in the shirt and you can see the different shades of lighting. And that's just looking at it on a phone screen. If I put both of these on a computer, I'm pretty sure this image is gonna come out a little bit better too. Now here's another set of wide angle photos. You see on the Mi 10, if you just look at it by itself, this is a really nice wide angle image. But when you compare it to the Mi 10 Pro, and then if you really want to nitpick, then you see that dynamic range and lighting overall is not as good. Notice the shadows in this building is just really dark. It's drenched in shadows. Whereas here, you can still see a little bit of the building. It's just slightly more detailed. You can see this blanket hanging off this building right here. Whereas here, you can't quite tell what this is. It's just completely dim. Now let's look at zoom images. So this is the reference photo. This is the 1x photo. Standard Mi 10 on the left, Mi 10 Pro on the right. So 1x is exactly the same photo. And you go to 2x, the Mi 10 still keeps up pretty well. But really, if you nitpick, you see the Mi 10 Pro already slightly sharper with more details. The Mi 10's image is a little bit noisy already at 2x. That's because this is a complete digital zoom, whereas this is using a telephoto lens. Now let's go 10x. Now this is where you see a major difference. Look at the leaves here on the Mi 10 Pro. You can still see the texture of the leaves of the plants. Whereas the 10x here on the Mi 10, this is a blotchy mess. Street sign too. You see, you can see the individual screws in the street sign right here on the Mi 10 Pro. On the Mi 10, you cannot see any of the details anymore. This is still a really respectable 10x zoom, but it just cannot compare to the Mi 10 Pro because it has a dedicated telephoto zoom lens. So other than telephoto zoom shots and wide angle images at night, you're going to get virtually the exact same performance across both of these devices. Now the standard Mi 10 does have a larger battery, 4700 compared to the 4500 of the Mi 10 Pro. So technically this phone should last slightly longer, but we're probably talking about like 5 minutes, 10 minutes longer. So it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about software and overall performance, all of that, because my brother Ben already did a very in-depth review of the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro. You can just watch that review and apply all that here because performance is going to be the same. Overall, I like MIUI. It's clean, it's minimal. There is no app tray. That's about the only thing that annoys me. Otherwise, everything about this is pretty clean, and I like the aesthetics of it. And I really like that you can pull the notification shade down from anywhere, and you swipe up to activate search. And I find that shortcut quite useful, although I would have preferred to swipe up to bring up the app tray. So that about wraps it up for this look at the Xiaomi Mi 10. Honestly, if you find the 1,000 asking price of this phone too much, then hopefully this phone at 700 will satisfy you, because if you still think this is too expensive, then I don't know what to say. Then you might just have to go buy a Realme or Redmi or something, because flagship smartphones are just going to be more expensive this year because of Qualcomm. A lot of you guys probably don't know this, but Qualcomm is forcing phone brands to buy the Snapdragon 865 along with the 5G modem. They are a package deal. You cannot get the Snapdragon 865 without getting the 5G modem. Now, honestly, ask yourselves, how many of you guys out there right now are really using 5G? Like 2% of you guys right now? So that means the other 98% of us, we are overpaying for these phones right now because there's a 5G antenna in there, even though we don't use 5G. 5G will not be important to our lives until probably 2021, or if you live in certain countries, maybe even later. So blame Qualcomm for the price hike, because if Qualcomm isn't forcing 5G on every Snapdragon 865 phone, then Xiaomi could sell this phone at 4G bands and charge you maybe like 550 bucks. Anyway, so that's about it. I am Ken, and you're watching Ken's Gadget Reviews. Take care, stay healthy. Thanks for watching.